Yo, 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 what's cracking, everybody? So in today's video, I'm about to be going over what seventh chords are and how to use them effectively. It's a fine Monday morning today. This is my favorite day of the week, and today I'm actually sipping on some coffee that was recommended to me by a viewer. It's this brand called Death Wish, and my thoughts on the coffee are going to be at the end of the video because I know most of you don't care. The stuff was wicked expensive though. It was like $20 for that bag. Can you believe that? Either way though, let's talk music. So first and foremost, what exactly is a seventh chord? Well, the idea is not too hard to wrap your head around so long as you already know a thing or two about chords. Basically, it's just a chord that has 4 notes. And that may seem a little bit strange at first because you're like, well, if it has 4 notes, why on earth is it called a seventh chord? Well, the reason it is called a seventh chord is because the 4th note that you would add to the chord would be 7 scale degrees higher than the root note. And if those words that I just said sounded like complete mumbo jumbo to you because you don't really know scales yet, I have a video. Link is going to be in the description. That video helps you cover the groundwork for what a scale is and how to build chords in the scale, all that jazz. So basically, if you're working in a scale, you're going to build a seventh chord the exact same way you would build the rest of the chord. So to build the basic chord, you would just skip a scale degree, put a note down, skip a scale degree, put a note down. You're going to do the same thing when you add the 4th note. Booyah, you have a seventh chord. Or if you're still in like that awkward stage of producing where you don't really know a lot of the theory stuff yet, you're either going to want to skip 2 spaces or 3 spaces in between your 3rd note and your 4th note. If you understand the theory behind what makes these chords sound good, then you can kind of selectively choose where to put the 7th and where to put the 3rd to make it sound the way you want it to sound. But if you don't know that stuff yet, it's going to take a lot of guesswork. You're going to have to listen to the chord over and over again and either move the 2nd note up or down or move the top note up or down to get a sound that works for you. So now you may be wondering, why would we want to use a 7th chord over a normal chord? And the reason isn't really anything too crazy, it's just because 7th chords sound different. That one extra note can add a completely different sound to your chord, and if you use them throughout your entire progression, it's going to change the way the whole progression sounds. So to demonstrate that difference, I'm going to let you hear a comparison between a normal D minor chord and a D minor 7 chord. So you could probably notice that just having that one extra note in there adds like a much more dreamy and like almost ethereal sound to the chord. Now another thing I want to touch on are the different types of 7th chords. So normally when you're working with the standard 3-note chords, there's going to be 4 different combinations that you're going to usually see. You have major chords, minor chords, diminished chords, and augmented chords. And there are other variations out there like suspended chords and other weird creative things that you can get into, but these are like the big 4. However, once you add a 4th note into the mix, there's so many more combinations you can come up with. So these are the 5 main types of 7th chords that you're going to want to use in your music. Now, if you want to make something really weird and experimental, you can kind of go off the rails with this and make any combination of 4 notes that you want. But in most kinds of modern music, these are the 5 7th chords you're pretty much always going to be hearing. First is the major 7, then there's the minor 7, then we have the dominant 7th chord, then we have a half diminished 7th chord, and then a fully diminished 7th chord. Now when they're all played back to back like that, the differences are pretty hard to notice. You can tell that they are different from one another, but without the context of an entire chord progression, it's really hard to describe what those differences are. So in order to really allow you guys to hear these 7th chords in action, I'm going to make a couple different chord progressions that use these different kinds of 7th chords. And I'm not going to sit here geeking over the theory of every single chord progression, alright? I'm going to speed through them. I'm not going to describe how I'm making them. I'm just going to let you guys hear them, and I'll tell you guys what chords are in each progression so you can get a feel for how to use the different 7th chords. Alright, so I ended up writing two different chord progressions. One is in D minor and the other one is in D major. So this is the D minor chord progression, and you can see it starts off with a minor 7th chord, and then the second chord in the progression is a dominant 7th chord, and it just looks a little bit funny because it's actually in the first inversion. Here's what it looks like normally. The third chord in the progression is actually a 6th chord, and this is something you don't see super often, but I kind of like the way that this sounded more than the normal minor 7th chord. And you can see that instead of using the 7th scale degree, I'm using the 6th scale degree, and that's why we call it a 6th chord rather than a 7th chord. And then ending off the progression, we just have a normal diminished chord. And if I wanted to, I could add a note right here, and that would turn this into a fully diminished 7th chord. However, as you may have saw in the time lapse, if you have some eagle eyes, I did try this out and I just didn't like the way it sounded. Moving on, I have a second pattern right here, and this is our major chord progression. So starting off the progression, we have a D major 7 chord, and then after that, there is an F sharp minor 7 chord. Then we have an E minor 7, followed by a C sharp half diminished 7 chord. I know the name on that last one probably sounds a bit complicated if you don't really know too much about music theory, but it's basically just a diminished chord, but with 3 spaces in between the 3rd note and the 4th note. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up today's video on 7th chords. There's a whole lot more chords out there to cover. You know, you could continuously add on to these 7th chords, making 9th chords, 11 chords, 13 chords. It starts to get really crazy. And you know, as I demonstrated in this other pattern, there is a such thing as a 6th chord. You got sus2 chords, sus4 chords, like there's so many out there. And in the future, I do plan on making videos on all of these other types of chords out there. However, I'm not going to do so until I actually learn about them in my music theory classes at school. Although I do have a pretty basic understanding of these other types of chords, I want to learn about them from a teacher who knows more than me first, so that way I'm not giving you guys wrong information. So now to close out the video, I'm just going to talk about this brand of coffee that was recommended to me by a viewer. I'll put the comment up on screen right now so you can see it, but basically the brand is called Death Wish, and first and foremost, it was dummy expensive. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this shit was $20 for one bag, and I almost didn't buy it. I almost went for my normal brand, which is $10 for one bag, but nah, I was like, dude, I gotta do it for the video. I went for a dark roast because I've been drinking a lot of light roast coffee lately, and I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. However, if I'm being honest, it's really not worth the hype. It's good coffee, don't get me wrong, it tastes fire, but it's not worth $20 a bag. No way, Jose. I'll probably just enjoy the rest of this bag of coffee, and then I'll go back to my usual brand, which is the Starbucks stuff. It's half the price, you know, about I think 4 ounces less coffee in each bag, but it tastes just as good, if not better. I mean, I haven't tried out the Starbucks dark roast stuff yet. I really want to try out the Italian blend, I think it's called, but their blonde roast Verdana blend is fire. It's A1. That is my go-to. But yeah, I don't know. The Death Wish brand, it's pretty nice. I don't know. I mean, if it wasn't $20 a bag, I would probably buy it again, but it is $20 a bag, so I won't be buying it again. Either way though, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got some solid knowledge out of this one. Use these 7th chords, make your songs a little bit more interesting, and you know, it adds a little bit of extra flair to your music. Leave a like if you would like, and I will catch you next time. Foo.